The moment Serena's father offered her in place of her younger sister, the words cut deeper than any rejection she had ever endured. Wolfless, barren, useless for breeding. To him, that made her the perfect slave for Alpha King Darius. Days later, Serena stood among terrified girls as the most feared king in the realm entered the room. His golden gaze passed over them, then stopped on her. Serena barely breathed before Darius made his decision. She'll do. But Serena had no idea what he had actually chosen her for. Chapter 1. Discovering that fairy tales are lies hurts far more when you once believed them. That was where Serena's story truly began. The day the tax collector arrived at her family's cottage was the day every childhood fantasy finally shattered. Stories had always been Serena's refuge. She had grown up reading about ordinary girls rescued by handsome princes, about magic turning misery into wonder, and about impossible wishes somehow becoming real. For years, Serena had secretly clung to one foolish hope of her own. Perhaps one day some miracle would find her. Perhaps the emptiness inside her womb would finally become life. Perhaps the shame of being called barren would disappear, replaced by the joy of holding a child. But hope could be cruel. When it died, Serena discovered that she suffered twice, once for what she had lost, and again for ever believing she might have had it. The tax collector stood in the doorway of their cottage, his golden eyes bright in the dim room. His enormous frame blocked nearly all the sunlight from outside. Serena remained near the shadows, while her father held Aurora tightly against his chest. He shielded Serena's younger sister, as though the beta wolf might seize her at any moment. That fear was not unreasonable. "The taxes have doubled this season," the beta said, his deep voice filling their tiny home. "By order of Alpha King Darius." Serena's father visibly trembled. Everyone in the village feared Darius. Humans and shifters alike whispered stories about the Alpha King's cruelty. Even powerful wolves supposedly feared provoking him. Shifters, at least, had some protection under pack law. Humans had almost none. They could become servants, property, tools to be used until they were no longer useful. Serena occupied an even stranger place. Both her parents could shift. She could not. She had been born into a shifter family without a wolf of her own. That alone had made her a source of shame. Then came the second disgrace. Serena had been mated for 5 years. For 5 years, she and her mate had tried to conceive. Nothing happened. Eventually, he decided Serena was defective and cast her aside. Her father had taken her home again, but only with bitter reluctance. To him, she was another mouth to feed, an abandoned daughter who brought no dowry and, apparently, no future. Villagers whispered that Serena's flaws must run deeper than anyone had realized. "My lord," her father said shakily to the beta, "the harvest was poor. Please, if you could give us more time. You know the penalty for failing to pay." The beta's gaze shifted to Aurora. Aurora whimpered and pressed herself harder against their father. "The king requires new slaves," the beta continued. "This one will do." Serena stiffened. Everyone knew the rumors surrounding slaves taken to Darius's castle. They entered. They did not return. "But she is already promised to be mated," Serena's father protested quickly. "She has a strong wolf. She will bear powerful cubs for the pack." Then he stopped. Serena saw his eyes move toward the shadows, toward her. Her heart sank before he even spoke. "Take my eldest daughter instead." The beta looked at Serena and sneered. "You would offer the king a defective half-breed?" "She has already proven useless for breeding," her father replied. Each word struck Serena with the force of a physical blow. Her own mate rejected her. She would make a suitable slave. She is practically human already, and barren besides. There is no loss to the pack. No loss. The beta repeated the phrase coldly. No loss to the pack, but what gain is there for the king? "She tells stories," Aurora blurted. Everyone looked at her. Aurora immediately shrank against their father beneath the beta's sharp stare. "Beautiful stories," she added quietly. Serena closed her eyes for a moment. For years, her family had mocked that very habit. Storytelling was childish, human, undignified. Yet now, when they needed some reason for another person to value their broken daughter, her stories suddenly became the only thing they could offer. "Show him, Serena," her father ordered. He seized her arm and forced her down onto her knees. "Tell him yourself." Serena slowly lifted her head. A strange thought brought bitter clarity. Perhaps slavery might at least spare her from one expectation. No one there would marry her expecting children she could never provide. "I would be honored to serve Alpha King Darius in whatever manner he requires, my lord," Serena said. The beta studied her. Something calculating flickered behind his eyes, something that made her skin crawl. Finally he nodded. "Very well, the defective one will do." Outside the cottage, the beta shifted into a massive wolf. Dark fur flashed beneath the afternoon sun. Serena followed him away from the only home she had known. She did not look back. That night, she knew she would probably be locked inside some cell, and when darkness came, she would do what she had always done. She would tell herself a story, one where her father regretted giving her away, one where Aurora fought to save her, one where being different did not mean being broken, one where a woman's value had nothing to do with the children she could bear. Serena had always been talented at inventing happy endings, perhaps because real life had given her so few. Chapter 2. At sunrise, Serena saw Alpha King Darius's castle for the first time. White marble towers rose beneath the bright morning sky, gleaming so beautifully that for several moments she simply stared. It was more magnificent than anything she had imagined, and that frightened her. Serena had read enough stories to know that beautiful places often concealed terrible secrets. The beta who had brought her there shifted back into human form and took hold of her arm. "Move." He did not take Serena through the grand entrance. Instead, he led her along a narrow path beside the castle and through a servant's entrance. They descended deep beneath the building, until they reached a cold stone chamber. 5 other girls were already waiting inside. Every one of them looked terrified. Serena kept her expression carefully blank. Whatever happened next, she refused to let strangers watch her break. Strip. A severe woman stood before them. Gray hair framed a hard face, and amber wolf eyes examined them without sympathy. The girls hesitated. The woman's mouth tightened. "You are property of the king now. Whatever you believed belonged to you, including your dignity, belongs to him." Slowly, one after another, the girls undressed. Serena did the same. She folded her clothes neatly despite the humiliation burning through her. Washing chamber. Servants led them into another room and dumped freezing water over their bodies. Serena gasped when the first bucket struck her. The cold stole her breath. Rough hands scrubbed her skin with coarse soap until every inch of her felt raw. Her hair was washed twice, then dragged through a comb until no tangle remained. "The king will not tolerate filthy village girls in his castle," the gray-haired woman said, clearly enjoying their discomfort. "Although I doubt any of you will survive a month. You are hardly the beauties he normally prefers." One girl began silently crying. "Save your tears," the woman snapped. "King Darius is not famous for mercy. Learn your place quickly, or learn what punishment feels like." They were given plain gray shifts and taught the castle rules, who they could speak to, which corridors were forbidden, where servants belonged, what happened to anyone who disobeyed. Then the woman's voice changed. "Tonight, one of you will serve the king's special guest." The phrase "special guest" made Serena's stomach tighten. Her imagination immediately supplied horrors. Perhaps they would be thrown before starving wolves. Perhaps offered as sacrifices. Perhaps something even worse. "The king himself will decide which of you receives the honor," the woman continued. She looked them over, like livestock being inspected before purchase. "You will be presented shortly. Try not to disgrace yourselves." They were taken upstairs through a narrow staircase and brought into a polished antechamber. The girls were ordered into a line. Eyes down. Serena obeyed. Footsteps approached beyond the door. The change in the room was immediate. The woman who had treated them so harshly suddenly became rigid. Her confidence vanished. Someone placed a hand on Serena's neck and pushed her head farther down. His Majesty, Alpha King Darius. The marble seemed to vibrate beneath Serena's bare feet as the king entered. Power filled the room. She could feel it pressing against her skin. "The new arrivals, Your Majesty," a man said respectfully, "for the requirements of your special guest." Silence followed. Serena heard the frightened breathing around her. The girl beside her trembled so badly Serena could almost feel it through the floor. "They are all cowering." The voice was deep. Not openly cruel. Not kind either. Mostly tired. Disappointed. As though their fear bored him because he had witnessed it too many times. How tiresome. That voice carried such effortless command that Serena's curiosity overcame her good sense. Kings had filled the stories of her childhood. Beautiful princes, noble rulers, men described so extravagantly she had always wondered whether real royalty could possibly compare. Slowly, Serena lifted her eyes. The answer stole her breath. Alpha King Darius was not simply handsome. Nothing she had ever read had prepared her for him. He was broader than the Alpha from her village, his features almost unnaturally perfect. Sharp cheekbones, dark hair, a strong mouth naturally curved as though the world constantly disappointed or amused him. Savage beauty. But his eyes caught Serena most. Something ancient lived behind them. Something wild. And suddenly those eyes snapped directly to hers. Serena immediately dropped her gaze. Her heart hammered. "Your Majesty," the attendant prompted, "have you chosen?" Serena could still feel Darius watching her. His attention was almost physical. Then his voice came. "She'll do." Serena did not need to look up. She knew he was pointing at her. Chapter 3. Serena stood outside an enormous oak door with her heart pounding painfully inside her chest. The corridor felt unnaturally cold. Torches burned along the walls, but their flames seemed to bend away from the door. Beside Serena, the gray-haired servant woman wore a faint smirk, yet Serena noticed that her hands were trembling. "Please the king's guest however he desires," the woman whispered. "Otherwise, tomorrow you may face something far worse." Even she seemed uneasy saying the word guest. The guard beside the door was sweating despite the cold. When Serena looked toward him, he avoided her eyes and tightened his hand around his sword. Something sounded from inside. Part growl, part sigh. The vibration seemed to move straight through the wooden door. The guard went pale. Then he opened it and shoved Serena inside. It was not merely a room. It was an enormous private suite. Scents filled the air. Spices, flowers, musk, blood, and something Serena could only describe as magic. A mirror caught her attention. When Serena looked toward it, her reflection seemed to ripple before finally settling. She swallowed. "Is anyone here?" No answer. But someone was watching her. Serena could feel the weight of an unseen gaze. Something shifted inside the darkness at the edge of her vision. She moved forward carefully. A banquet waited on a large table. Roasted meats. Bright fruits. Golden candle holders. Enough food to feed Serena's family for days. She touched nothing. Instead, she continued farther into the suite and reached a set of heavy velvet curtains. Serena pulled them open, then froze. A gigantic bed occupied the chamber beyond, wide enough for several people. Silk sheets covered it. Suddenly, every knowing look from the servants made sense. The nervous guard. The feast. The enormous bed. She had not been selected to entertain this guest with conversation. She was expected to offer him her body. Nausea surged through Serena. She pressed a hand against her mouth. Then she noticed a parcel resting on the bed. A card lay on top. Her name had been written across it in elegant script. Serena unwrapped the package. A gown slipped into her hands. Midnight black fabric shimmered with threads of gold. It was breathtaking, and somehow that made it more frightening. The temperature suddenly dropped. The room seemed to darken. Behind her came slow footsteps, then claws scraping stone, bones or joints shifting, a deep groan that was quickly suppressed. Serena turned. The shadows thickened until they resembled a living void. "Put it on." The voice was deep and wrong. Human language forced through a throat never meant to speak it. Serena's hands shook as she carried the gown behind a dressing screen. She changed quickly. The fabric flowed over her skin like cold water. Nearby, Serena found a necklace. Diamonds shaped like stars formed a glittering collar. "Should I wear this as well?" she asked. Silence. Then the presence moved closer. Yes. Serena fastened the necklace around her throat. Its weight made breathing difficult. She stepped from behind the screen. The room appeared empty. But she knew she was not alone. "Please eat." Serena cautiously took a small piece of bread. She chewed. The rich flavor meant nothing to her. Something moved behind her. A shadow covered part of the table. "Do you like the dress?" "Yes," Serena managed. "Stand." Her knees nearly failed, but she obeyed. The creature moved closer. A hand emerged from the darkness. Except it was not truly a hand. The appendage was enormous and grotesque, with long fingers tipped by claws. "Turn around." Serena slowly obeyed. Her gaze traveled upward, and farther upward. The creature before her was massive, distorted. Its form looked as though agony had reshaped every part of it. A long muzzle revealed jagged teeth. Huge limbs twisted beneath its weight. Everything about it should have made Serena scream. Her lips parted, but the question that escaped was not the one she expected. "Were you cursed?" The creature jerked backward as though she had struck him. Serena immediately regretted speaking. "I'm sorry, that was presumptuous." "No." His voice became quieter, almost weary. "How did you know?" Serena hesitated. "I have read many stories about curses. There was one about a royal who was turned into brambles by a jealous witch, and another—" She stopped herself. "I'm rambling." "No." The creature fixed his golden eyes on her. "Continue." So Serena did. She told one story, then another. Stories about curses, about monsters, about terrible appearances hiding humanity underneath. Hours slipped away. Candles burned lower. Finally, the beast leaned back. "Thank you for your company." His voice had softened. Serena felt relief spread through her. She had survived. Not with beauty. Not with a wolf. Not with the ability to bear children. With stories. Then the beast spoke again. "Will you be my wife?" Serena stopped breathing. I cannot." The beast rose. His enormous body towered above her. "Then I have no use for you." The finality in his voice froze Serena's blood. Would the king kill her because she had offended his guest? Fear clawed through her, but Serena's storyteller's mind moved faster. "I am held by those who cannot touch me, broken by those who never speak me, and kept by those who never sought me. Kings command me, but I command fate. What am I?" The beast paused, his head tilted. "What is this?" "A riddle," Serena answered. "From a story I know." She forced herself to meet his gaze. "If you solve it, then I will be yours. But until you do, perhaps you will allow me to return and tell you more stories." The beast stared at her for so long that Serena thought her courage might finally fail. Then he released a slow breath. "Tomorrow night." He turned away. "Do not be late." Chapter 4. The servants' quarters fell completely silent when Serena returned. Every girl stared. Some pressed themselves against the wall as though Serena carried a contagious disease. The gray-haired head servant seized Serena's arm and pulled her into a small alcove. "You're alive." The woman stared at her in disbelief. "How did you—" She stopped, glanced toward the others, then lowered her voice. Tell no one anything. Not one word. Do you understand? Serena nodded. The king wants to see you at noon. The woman's fingers trembled around Serena's arm. Clearly, Serena returning alive had disrupted something everyone believed certain. Sleep came only in fragments. Her dreams were filled with golden eyes and riddles without answers. Hours later, rough hands woke her. Sunlight already filled the room. A guard stood nearby. The king demands your presence, now. Serena followed him through unfamiliar corridors and winding staircases until they reached a private room. She had expected a throne room. Instead, it was a study filled with books. Alpha King Darius stood beside a huge window, sunlight outlining his body. Only 2 other people were present. Birdie, the severe servant woman, kept her gaze down. Beside the king stood a warrior Serena assumed was Darius's beta. Darius watched Serena enter. In daylight, his beauty seemed even more dangerous. There was not a visible flaw anywhere on him. He looked as though the gods had carved him from stone and forgotten to add anything soft. So, Darius began, you met my guest. Serena bowed. What did you think? He treated me generously, Your Majesty, as did you, by choosing me to serve him. Something moved across Darius's expression. Curiosity, perhaps, or suspicion. And that is all? Your guest requested that I return tonight. Darius stepped closer. Will you? If it pleases Your Majesty. Darius gave a mocking smile. I do not care whether you or someone else entertains that thing. Serena's expression changed before she could stop herself. Darius noticed immediately. Does my choice of words bother you, slave? He leaned nearer. What would you call such a disgusting beast? The entire room tightened. Serena chose her words carefully. Your Majesty may call him whatever you wish. Silence. She should have stopped there. Instead, Serena added quietly, although even beasts deserve respect. The beta inhaled sharply. Birdie visibly paled. Respect? Darius's eyes narrowed. That beast is a stain on my castle. I show him enough respect by allowing him to remain alive and fed. Serena lowered her head. Darius began walking slowly around her. The gown and jewels you wore last night will be returned to Birdie, he ordered. Everything in this castle belongs to me. A slave has no right to such luxury. Yes, Your Majesty. And if you speak to anyone about the beast, Darius's voice dropped into a dangerous whisper. I will know. He stopped behind her. And I will have you killed immediately. Do you understand? Yes, Your Majesty. Darius studied her another moment. Then he waved dismissively. Get her out of my sight. That night, when darkness settled over the castle, Serena was taken toward the same oak door again. This time, the guard would not look at her at all. Chapter 5. Days became weeks. Serena's life settled into a strange rhythm. Every night belonged to the beast. Every day belonged to slavery. Each evening began almost the same way. A beautiful gown waited for her. A feast covered the table. The beast settled across from Serena while she told stories until the candles burned low. What have you brought me tonight? He would ask. Serena would begin. Adventure, tragedy, curses, lost kingdoms, forbidden love. When she reached the most interesting part, she deliberately stopped. And then, the beast would demand. Tomorrow, Serena would promise, sometimes allowing herself the faintest smile. Her days could not have been more different. Although Serena was allowed to sleep later because of her nightly duties, by midday she would be kneeling on stone floors, scrubbing until her fingers burned from harsh soap and freezing water. Missed a spot, Birdie would say. Serena would look. There was never anything there. Start again. The other servants gradually stopped being curious about Serena and became openly resentful. Disease carrier, one kitchen maid whispered. That must be why she survives. She thinks she is better than us now, another servant muttered. Others speculated about whatever secret kept Serena alive. Serena ignored them. Isolation was familiar. She had spent most of her life standing slightly outside everyone else's world. Sometimes she encountered Darius in the castle corridors. On some days, he walked by without acknowledging her existence. On others, his perfect mouth curled with contempt. "Still alive," he remarked once. "My guest has unusual tastes." Rumors about the Alpha King circulated constantly. "He killed his own father," an elderly gardener whispered. "I heard his mother died first," another servant answered. People spoke of rivals who challenged Darius and vanished. Servants supposedly executed for small mistakes. Whether those stories were true hardly mattered. Fear of the king lived in every room, yet Serena found herself becoming strangely content with her nights. After several weeks, however, she began running out of stories she had read. One evening, she admitted it. "I'm not certain I have a story tonight." The beast tilted his head. "You always have a story." Serena hesitated. The books available in her village had been few. Her father had never considered her reading worth spending money on. "I could tell you something of my own." The beast went still. "Yours?" That night changed everything between them. Until then, Serena had mostly repeated stories created by other people. Now she began inventing worlds of her own. And for the first time in Serena's life, someone truly listened. The beast became her first real audience. He noticed weaknesses in her plots. He questioned her characters. He argued when their choices made no sense. Why would the princess trust him after everything he did to her? He challenged one night. Serena thought about it. Because sometimes we see beyond what people have done to who they really are. The beast fell silent. "And you believe people can change so completely?" "I believe people sometimes reveal what was already inside them," Serena answered. "Cruelty can be armor." Golden eyes studied her. "You speak as though you understand armor." She did. Serena knew the armor of indifference she had forced herself to wear when her mate rejected her. She knew the armor of resignation she had worn while her father offered her away like damaged property. But she said none of that. She simply continued telling her story. Their conversations grew longer. Soon they stretched from sunset almost until dawn. Serena occasionally forgot to fear him. She laughed at his dry remarks. He gave low sounds of approval when she surprised him with a clever twist. Then one evening, the beast rose unexpectedly. "I have something for you." He led Serena toward a door she had never noticed. Beyond it stood a circular chamber. Shelves covered every wall from floor to ceiling. Books filled them. Hundreds of books. Perhaps thousands. Near a window stood a writing desk supplied with fine parchment, bottles of ink, and quills. Serena slowly turned around. "A library?" She looked at him. "For me? You told me your father would not buy books for you," the beast said, sounding almost uncomfortable. "I thought you might want new stories." He glanced toward the desk. "And perhaps somewhere to write your own." Tears filled Serena's eyes. No one had ever given her anything like this. "Thank you." After that night, their conversations became richer. Serena read whenever her duties gave her time. At night, she and the beast debated everything. Stories, morality, characters, why people forgave, why people betrayed, what love demanded. One evening Serena read from a new story. The beast stopped her. "Your heroine forgives too easily. Perhaps holding on to anger hurts her more than it hurts the person who wronged her. Or perhaps," he said gently, "she is afraid of being alone again." Serena looked up. His observation struck too close. "Maybe both." The beast leaned forward. "Tell me about her." Serena lowered the pages. "About what? Why does forgiveness come so easily to someone who has been hurt?" Her throat tightened. She was cast aside by someone who was supposed to love her. He told her she was broken, worthless. So when someone finally treats her kindly, she becomes terrified that kindness will disappear. Why was she cast aside? Silence filled the room. Serena folded her trembling hands together. She could not give him what he wanted most. The beast waited. "A child," Serena whispered. She forced herself to continue. She tried for 5 years, but her body never cooperated. Eventually he called her defective and returned her to her father like a broken tool. The beast inhaled sharply. Serena looked up. His golden eyes burned with anger. He was a fool. His voice was rough. A fool to throw away someone precious because of something beyond her control. Was he? Tears pressed against Serena's eyes. In our world, what is a woman who cannot bear pups? What purpose does she have? What purpose? The beast stood abruptly and paced toward the window. She tells stories that make darkness easier to endure. He turned toward Serena. She sees through monsters and finds the soul underneath. His voice deepened. She brings light into places that have known nothing but shadow. Serena wiped quickly at her eyes. "At least you will stop asking me to marry you now." She gave a small, broken laugh. "Now that you know I truly am as defective as everyone says." The beast spun toward her. His massive body trembled. "Serena, I would consider myself the most fortunate creature alive if you chose me." She froze. "Child or no child, you are—" He suddenly stopped himself. For several seconds he said nothing. Then he continued more quietly. "You are worth more than a kingdom filled with queens who possess everything except your gentle heart." Heat rushed into Serena's face. No one had ever spoken about her that way. Not with pity. Not because they needed something. With conviction. I don't." She looked away and twisted the fabric of her gown between her fingers. "You do not need to say things like that simply to be kind." "I am not being kind." His answer came immediately. "I am being honest." Serena lowered her head. The intensity of his attention overwhelmed her. He looked at her as though she were precious. Not defective. Not barren. Not a burden. For perhaps the first time in Serena's life, she understood what happiness felt like. The castle that had once seemed like a prison gradually became something closer to a refuge. Only one thing troubled her. Every night, eventually, the beast asked the same question. "Will you be my wife?" And Serena always answered with the same riddle. "I am held by those who cannot touch me, broken by those who never speak me, and kept by those who never sought me. Kings command me, but I command fate. What am I?" At first, the riddle had been nothing more than a way to survive. Now Serena dreaded the pain she saw in his golden eyes whenever she used it to avoid giving him an answer. She had even imagined saying yes. The beast was her closest friend. No one had ever understood her mind as he did. No one had ever treated her so gently. But whenever Serena imagined marriage, another image followed, those enormous distorted limbs touching her. His grotesque body beside hers in a marriage bed. Instinctive terror rose in her stomach. So whenever he asked again, Serena repeated quietly, "What am I?" The beast remained silent. And the following evening, they began again. Chapter 6. One morning, Serena was not sent to scrub floors. Instead, a servant guided her into a small room tucked into a quiet corner of the castle. Inside stood a simple desk and chair. Blank parchment had been stacked carefully on top. Several quills rested beside a pot of ink. Bertie stood in the doorway. "His Majesty says you are to spend your days here now, preparing for your nightly duties." Serena stared. "I am supposed to write?" "Whatever keeps that thing entertained," Bertie muttered. Then she left. Serena approached the desk almost reverently. Paper had been precious in her village. Ink even more so. Her father would never have spent either on something as useless, in his opinion, as Serena's stories. She ran her fingertips over the smooth parchment. Someone had given her time to create. That night, Serena entered the beast's chambers, carrying several pages covered with her handwriting. She felt unexpectedly nervous. I wrote something different today. The beast settled into the enormous chair opposite her. May I read it? Please. Serena looked down. Her voice shook slightly when she began. Once there lived a girl who was born without a wolf. She lived in a village where everyone else could shift, while she remained trapped inside one human skin. Serena stopped briefly. Her father called her defective. The beast became completely still. Her sister sometimes pretended not to know her when other people were watching. Children from the village threw stones and called her a half-breed. Serena continued. At night, the girl escaped through stories. She created places where she belonged, places where being different was not considered a curse. Her voice strengthened. No one asked to hear those stories. No one cared about the worlds she built, one word at a time. Then everyone who rejected her because she had no wolf was foolish, the beast interrupted. A wolf is nothing compared with a mind capable of creating worlds. Serena looked up. He held her gaze. Is that how the story ends? I don't know yet. Silence settled between them. Serena lowered the pages. Today someone gave my stories value for the first time. The beast said nothing. You asked the king, who clearly hates you, to give me somewhere to write. Her voice cracked. No one has ever... Serena swallowed. No one has ever seen me before. She met his golden eyes. Not until you. The beast's claws flexed. For a moment, Serena thought he wanted to reach toward her. He did not. I see nothing but you, Serena. The way he spoke her name sent a shiver through her. Then came the question. Will you be my wife? This time it felt different. Serena's breath caught. Her heart raced. The silence continued. Serena? She finally allowed herself to look at him. Really look. She saw the twisted limbs, the scarred hide, the monstrous face, but she also saw everything she had learned beneath it. His humor, his intelligence, his careful questions, the gentleness with which he accepted every refusal. Serena opened her mouth. For one terrible, hopeful moment, another answer almost came. Instead, she whispered, I am held by those who cannot touch me, broken by those who never speak me, and kept by those who never sought me. Kings command me, but I command fate. Her throat tightened. What am I? The beast held her eyes. Then his shoulders slowly dropped. Serena left his chambers feeling heavier than she ever had before. That night, sleep refused to come. She stared into the darkness and remembered the life she had lived before the castle. The loneliness of being the only person in her family without a wolf. The silence whenever she walked into rooms. Her father refusing to truly look at her. Then she thought about the beast. He listened. He gave her books. He arranged a room where she could write. He believed her ability to create stories mattered more than having a wolf. One of their old conversations returned to her. Why would someone forgive a person who hurt them? Because sometimes, Serena had said, we can see beyond what someone has done to who they truly are. Was that not exactly what had happened? Serena had looked beyond the beast's terrible appearance and found the person beneath it. And he had looked past every label the world had placed on Serena. Wolfless, barren, defective. He had seen her. The realization struck so suddenly Serena sat upright. Her heart pounded. She loved him. Not merely as a friend. Not because she was grateful for his kindness. She loved him with the deep certainty of recognizing the one person who understood the language of her heart. Serena had to tell him. Now, before morning fully came, before fear returned, before another day passed without him knowing his question finally had a different answer. The castle corridors were silent before dawn. When Serena reached his chambers, the guard had fallen asleep against the wall. She slipped past. Inside, faint morning light had begun filtering through the curtains. The beast slept on the enormous bed. Serena approached. She would wake him. She would say yes. Then the first beam of sunlight crossed the bed. The beast convulsed. Serena stopped. A groan escaped him. His limbs twisted. Fur pulled back into skin. Bones cracked and reshaped. His enormous body became smaller. Human. Serena covered her mouth. And where the beast had been sleeping only moments earlier, Alpha King Darius now lay. His perfect features were peaceful in sleep. His chest rose and fell steadily. The difference between the horrifying creature and the beautiful king was so astonishing Serena forgot everything else. Without thinking, she reached toward him. Her fingers hovered above his cheek. Darius's eyes opened. For one heartbeat, he smiled. Not the cold smile of a king. Not mockery. A real smile. It changed his entire face. Then his gaze moved toward the sunlight, back to Serena. The smile disappeared. You were not supposed to see this. His voice sounded empty. Your Majesty. Darius slowly sat up. Shock faded into resignation. A witch's curse. He avoided Serena's eyes. During the day, I am the king everyone fears. At night, I become the monster everyone pities. He looked toward the window. Neither form feels entirely like me. Serena remained silent. The curse can only be broken when I find a love stronger than one born for a king. Darius's jaw tightened. In other words, someone must love the beast without knowing there is a king underneath. I came here to say yes. The words burst from Serena. I was coming to accept your proposal. Enough. Darius cut her off. Now you know. But I had already decided before I saw. It does not matter. He turned away. Whatever you feel now is contaminated by what you have seen. You know both forms. His voice hardened. You love a king, not a beast. No, I didn't know when I decided. You should leave. Darius, go. By afternoon, Serena sat inside a carriage. She watched the castle disappear behind her. Chapter 7. A year passed. Serena lived in a small cottage near the edge of a forest. Spring came. Flowers bloomed. Summer followed. Leaves eventually fell and grew again. She possessed nearly everything the girl she once was would have considered a dream. A quiet room. Windows facing east. A writing desk. Shelves filled with books. And misery. The emptiness inside Serena never disappeared. She wrote constantly. Pages filled with cursed princes. Misunderstood monsters. Lovers who saw beyond appearances. Yet Serena rarely finished anything. Without him, every story felt hollow. There was no deep voice challenging weak character choices. No golden gaze lighting with interest at an unexpected twist. No one asking what happened next. The villagers treated Serena with distant kindness. Some called her the king's woman. Serena had known loneliness before. This was different. Before Darius, she had never known what it felt like to be fully seen. Now she did. And she knew what it felt like to lose it. The news arrived on a late summer afternoon. Serena was buying bread when the baker's wife leaned toward her eagerly. You've heard, I suppose. Serena looked up. Heard what? The royal wedding. Her heart stumbled. Wedding? Oh yes. Alpha King Darius is marrying a princess from the Eastern Territories. Very powerful alliance, apparently. The woman lowered her voice as though sharing a delicious secret. The ceremony will take place in the town square next week. Public. The entire kingdom is invited. That night Serena stood before her mirror. Eventually, she made a decision. She would attend. She would not beg Darius to reconsider. She would not cause a scene. She only wanted to see him once more. The wedding morning arrived beneath a perfectly clear sky. Serena dressed in her finest gown. It was simple compared with noble clothing, but far better than anything she had possessed in her village. By noon, the town square looked transformed. Royal blue and gold banners hung from buildings. Summer flowers covered temporary pavilions. Armored guards surrounded the area. Serena found a place near the edge of the crowd, partly concealed behind a large farmer and his family. From there, she hoped she could see without Darius noticing her. Nobles arrived first. Silks, jewels, carefully controlled smiles. Then came the bride. Princess Ara possessed everything Serena did not. She was tall, regal, confident in the effortless way of someone born into power. People sighed admiringly as she passed. Serena swallowed. Of course Darius would choose a woman like that. Beautiful, strong. A princess worthy of an alpha king. Perhaps Ara had succeeded where Serena failed. Perhaps somehow the curse had already been broken. But the sun remained in the sky. There was no way to know. A royal fanfare sounded. The square became silent. Darius appeared. He wore royal blue and silver. Sunlight gleamed across his dark hair. He walked with the controlled grace Serena remembered. His head remained high, his shoulders straight. Every inch of him looked like the perfect ruler. But Serena saw details other people missed. The slight tension around his eyes, the deliberate blankness of his face, his hands tightening briefly before he forced them to relax. To the crowd, he was Alpha King Darius. To Serena, he was also the creature who had listened to every story. The beast who gave her books. The one who repeatedly asked her to become his wife. Darius took his position at the altar. Something inside Serena seemed to break. She knew him, not his title, not his face. Him. She knew the quiet humor he rarely showed, the gentleness hidden beneath his guarded manner. The way clever stories made his golden eyes brighten, the way emotional endings made him unusually still. Movement near Serena distracted her. A large man shifted position in the crowd. Something felt wrong. His movements were too deliberate. His gaze did not follow the ceremony. Instead, he studied the royal guards, counting them, watching their positions. Serena looked across the square. Another man behaved similarly. His hand rested too casually near something hidden beneath his clothing. Cold unease traveled through Serena. They were not there for the wedding. The royal officiant began the traditional vows. Serena forced her attention back toward Darius. He stood rigid. His face revealed nothing. Then his gaze unexpectedly left his bride. Darius looked across the crowd. Their eyes met. For a single heartbeat, the king's perfect control disappeared. Pain crossed his face. Raw, unhidden. His skin seemed to pale. His lips parted. Then Darius tore his gaze away and returned his attention to Ara. Serena forced herself to smile. She hoped he had seen it, hoped he understood. She wished him happiness, even while her own heart felt as though it were collapsing. The vows continued. The sun moved lower. Around the square, the suspicious men changed positions. Serena watched them. Something was about to happen. Then the first scream tore through the crowd. Chapter 8. Steel crashed against steel. Wolves snarled. People screamed and scattered while royal guards rushed toward Darius and his bride. "Protect His Majesty!" The captain's command rose above the chaos. Several guards surrounded Princess Ara and hurried her away through a side street. Darius stayed. He drew his sword. The blade flashed beneath the late afternoon sun. People shoved Serena from every direction. Someone struck her hard enough to send her onto the cobblestones. From the ground, the battle looked like a nightmare. Some attackers began shifting, bodies contorted. Fur exploded across skin. Massive wolves launched themselves at the royal guards. The guards shifted to meet them. Within moments, what had begun with swords became a brutal fight of claws and teeth. But Darius remained human. He fought with steel. Serena watched the way he moved, precise, fluid, powerful, and suddenly she understood something simple. His forms had never changed the person underneath. Different body, same soul. A flash above the square caught Serena's attention. An archer stood on a nearby roof. His bow was drawn. The arrow pointed directly toward Darius's unprotected back. Serena did not think. She ran. Her shoes slipped across blood-slick stones. The archer released. Serena slammed into Darius. They crashed onto the ground together. The arrow passed through the space where Darius had been standing. He stared at her. His familiar eyes widened. Serena, you were about to be shot. She pointed toward the rooftop. Darius immediately pushed Serena behind him. Go. His voice was urgent. Please. His beta appeared through the fighting, blood covering part of his face. Your Majesty, the sun, you must retreat now. Serena looked west. The sun hovered just above the horizon. Only minutes remained before sunset. The curse still existed. The beta grabbed Darius's arm. My lord, there is no time. A huge wolf suddenly lunged toward Serena. Its body slammed into her. She hit the ground. The wolf pinned her beneath its weight. Fangs snapped inches from her throat. Serena twisted desperately, but she could not move the animal. A man standing beside the wolf shouted toward Darius. Stand down, Your Majesty. The attacker's voice sounded distorted beneath the noise. Or watch her die. Darius stopped. His sword remained half raised. The beta seized his arm. My lord, the sun, you have to go. Release her. Darius spoke with deadly calm. The bottom of the sun touched the horizon. My king, the beta pleaded. There is no time. Darius ripped his arm free. His eyes never left Serena. Something shifted in his expression. The attacker grabbed Serena and dragged her backward. Take her. No. Darius roared and surged forward. The last edge of sunlight vanished. Darius stumbled. A cry of pain tore from him. His sword fell onto the stones. His body began to twist. Wedding clothes strained and tore. Gasps swept through nobles and commoners alike. Everyone watched their king transform. Darius's spine arched. Bones cracked. His perfect face stretched into something monstrous. Teeth lengthened. His jaw changed. Fur spread across his skin, while strange scales appeared in patches. His elegant hands became huge claws. People recoiled. Princess Ara, who had been struggling against the guards trying to remove her from danger, suddenly stopped. Her face lost all color. Darius ignored every stare. Every scream. Every horrified face. He looked only at Serena. The beast launched himself at the man holding her. There was no hesitation, no attempt to preserve his secret. No concern for what his kingdom would think after seeing him like this. Only fury at the person threatening Serena. Her captor released her and shifted fully. He attacked Darius. He was no match for him. Even some of the fighting around them slowed as attackers stared at the impossible creature their king had become. The royal guards used the opening to regain control. Rebels were driven back. Darius tore into their leader. The fight ended quickly. The attacking alpha lay dead on the cobblestones. Darius stood in the center of the ruined square. Huge. Grotesque. Covered in another man's blood. His golden eyes moved across the frightened crowd. Then his legs trembled. A growl of pain escaped him. Blood ran from a wound where an arrow had struck. Serena walked toward him. People stared. She did not care. This was the beast she knew. Her beast. Her king. You're hurt. Darius struggled to remain standing. Serena moved closer. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm sorry everyone saw you. This happened because of me. The beast shook his head. I do not care what they saw. Pain tightened his voice. I do not care what they think. He looked at Serena. As long as you are safe. She raised both hands and placed them gently against his muzzle. I love you. Darius went still. Beast or king, I love you. Something changed. The air itself seemed charged. Light began glowing beneath Darius's skin. It grew brighter with every breath. His fur started disappearing. Bones shifted. The grotesque shape gradually melted away. But this transformation was unlike the painful ones Serena had witnessed before. This time, his body changed almost gently. When the light finally faded, Darius stood before Serena in human form. Night had already fallen. His wedding clothing hung in torn pieces. But the wound from the arrow was gone. He stared down at himself. "I don't understand." "The curse," Serena whispered. She remembered what he had told her. "Only when you find a love stronger than that born for a king will you be free." Darius looked at her. "That is what the witch said, isn't it?" "Yes." "You misunderstood her." Darius frowned. Serena continued carefully. She was not saying someone had to love the beast more than the king. Realization slowly appeared in Darius's eyes. "It was about you." Serena held his gaze. "You had to love someone more than you loved being king." Darius looked across the square, at the people who had seen everything, then back at Serena. "When I chose to protect you, instead of protecting my secret, you chose me over your pride," Serena finished. Her eyes filled with tears. "That is what broke it." Around them voices murmured. Princess Ara was gone. Darius's beta approached slowly, disbelief written across his face. But Darius did not look at him. He looked only at Serena. In the middle of the destroyed wedding square, with blood on the stones and the remains of battle around them, Darius pulled Serena into his arms. She went willingly. Her hands rose to his face, the face she knew in two forms. The same soul she had recognized in both. "I love you," Darius whispered against her hair. "Beast and king, every part of me loves you." Serena held him tighter. His heartbeat remained steady beneath her cheek. For that moment, the frightened crowd disappeared. The battle disappeared. The blood and wreckage disappeared. There were only two people who had learned to look beyond what the world saw and recognize each other underneath. Epilogue. 1 year later, the royal ballroom glowed beneath hundreds of candles. Across polished marble floors, humans and shifters danced together, not separated, not divided by rank or species, together. Queen Serena stood at the edge of the celebration and watched her mate move through the crowd. The man approaching guests was still Alpha King Darius, but fear no longer followed every step he took. People smiled when he approached. Their bows were respectful rather than terrified. Darius stopped often to speak with ordinary guests instead of passing them as though they were invisible. So much had changed. The castle once filled with whispered terror now welcomed people openly. Servants no longer trembled whenever footsteps approached. The old hierarchy that placed humans beneath wolves had been dismantled beneath Serena and Darius's rule. After the events in the town square, other truths had finally emerged. Darius had never been the cruel king rumors described. He had been a frightened man guarding a secret. He had decided long ago that being feared was safer than being closely observed. The servants said to have vanished after attending the mysterious guest had not been murdered. They had been sent to distant villages with generous pensions in exchange for silence. Once Darius's curse became public, its history also emerged. Years earlier, when Darius was younger, a witch he had scorned placed the curse upon him. She divided his existence. During half his life, he would wear the beautiful appearance of the powerful prince he valued so much. During the other half, he would become what he feared most, a grotesque beast who could not command admiration. Only fear. For a young prince who once valued beauty and power above everything else, the punishment had been cruelly precise. But breaking the curse changed more than Darius. It helped transform his kingdom. And then another change came. One Serena still struggled to call anything except a miracle. 3 months after their wedding, Serena felt something unfamiliar inside her body. A tiny flutter. Physicians examined her. Then examined her again. They were baffled. The same woman once declared Barren was carrying children, not 1, 2. Now, a prince and princess slept peacefully in the royal nursery upstairs. Serena sometimes wondered how it had happened. She preferred to believe love had done what everyone else considered impossible. Darius had chosen her when he believed she could never give him an heir. He had wanted Serena without demanding that her body prove her value first. Perhaps love that unconditional had healed something everyone else had already declared permanently broken. Serena crossed the ballroom toward her husband. Before she reached him, she heard a visiting diplomat speaking. "A riddle, Your Majesty. I have heard you appreciate puzzles." Darius smiled. "I enjoy a good one." The diplomat cleared his throat. "Very well. I am held by those who cannot touch me, broken by those who never speak me, and kept by those who never sought me. Kings command me, but I command fate. What am I?" Serena stopped. Her breath caught. That riddle. The one she had desperately invented on her first terrifying night with the beast. Darius's eyes briefly moved toward Serena. A small smile touched his lips. "That is simple." He looked back at the diplomat. "A promise?" The diplomat laughed, impressed, and soon moved away to another conversation. Serena approached Darius. "You knew the answer." Darius took her hand. He lifted it to his lips. "All this time?" she asked. "Since the first night you asked me." Serena stared at him. "But you told me you did not know." Darius's expression softened. "I did not want to force you to marry me." He drew Serena gently onto the dance floor. Curse or no curse. They moved together through the ballroom, perfectly in step. Darius leaned close. "I love you, my storyteller." His voice softened further. "My queen." Serena smiled. "And I love you." She rested against him. "My beast. My king. One soul, finally living in perfect harmony."